Hi, this is Francis Sideco with TIRIAS Research. I'm here with Dave from Naqi Logix, who we actually spoke with last year at this same show at CES and Unveiled, which is kind of the pre-show to CES. And Dave's got some really interesting technology around a new way of kind of like a new user interface, basically. So Dave, why don't you just, for the people that maybe didn't see the video last year, maybe do a quick recap on what you guys are doing with your technology.
Sure thing. Well, we're developing neural earbuds that allow individuals to command, control, and navigate PCs, Macs, Internet of Things, connected devices, hands-free, voice-free, and sometimes even screen-free, and that's kind of the special sauce of what we're doing. Users can type, with some practice, a little exposure, they can type I would say between 60, 65 characters per minute natively without predictive logic. The ability to, I would say, play almost many of the more popular computer games, any and all Microsoft Office applications, all major browsers. The game that won Game of the Year last year was a game called Baldur's Gate 3. I played Baldur's Gate 3 for like an hour and a half, just kind of looking at the computer. It didn't feel I had any disadvantage to that. And I know you remember the initial demonstration from last year.
It was pretty impressive.
The ability to fly a simulated 737, an X-Plane 12.
Yeah.
Hands-free, voice-free, using nothing but the input of our neural earbud. Full cockpit control, taxiing, takeoff, flying, navigating, and if you unplug the monitor, I would continue to have control over various.
If you do, So what's the translation there? Like, how do you create the impulses to have specific controls, and then translate that to the specific, app?
I'm so glad you
control.
worded it that way. That's limited. If you associate, I'd say EMG signals like that's button 1, that's button 2, too limited.
Right.
There aren't enough facial high amplitude EMG signals in the face to control the world. Right. So I took a different approach. I use those as triggers. When I say trigger, it's like selecting or executing a command, like a double click per se, or a primer. And a primer is best defined as any kind of physiological action that is a gateway into a subsequent system. Like if you say, hey Siri, hey Alexa, those are all voice recognition primers to get those devices to start listening, because there's a command forthcoming. And so I use those facial gestures as a silent primer to pull you into a multi-dimensional menu system, and then think of it almost as if it's an invisible Rubik's Cube. For every small cube that makes up the Rubik's Cube, it's like an icon. It's like an execution phase. And then as you move this invisible cursor around this invisible UI, you get audio feedback telling you where you're at in this invisible UI, what the utility of that cube is that you're sitting on, and then from there, could be a brow raise, jaw clench, you're selecting that, and then you get verbal validation that command was sent and successful.
So given kind
that
of
way it's unlimited.
Okay, right, because then you're clicking, right?
Well, prime example, a file folder in a GUI is an icon.
Right.
But it's an icon that represents a location.
Right.
Conversely, in our system, one of the cubes in that invisible Rubik's Cube might represent a different location in the Rubik's Cube or a whole different Rubik's Cube altogether.
Right.
So with that, it's really unlimited.
So in going back to the flight simulator, or even like any of the very complicated games that are out there, how are you doing that? So like it's basically a real time, you have to be, the latency with the command and being able to like select which action you want to do has to be pretty fast, right? Because it's real time. So how are you doing? Okay.
It is fast. It's as fast as, say, physical mouse control.
So that's probably the best analogy, is it's kind of like a mouse click, essentially.
That's it. And with that, you can do a click and hold, a double click, a right click and hold, right click, all of those from the neural earbud. I actually have a video that demonstrates that. It's a few months old, but it's newer since last time I've seen you.
Okay.
But it actually demonstrates how you use that in Visible UI in a flight simulator.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's take a look at it.
So this is just a quick demonstration. I have my hands up, not because you have to, but because the video window's so small, I didn't want somebody thinking
you were controlling underneath
below the camera, and like I'm touching joysticks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you're going to see me use it. This is the invisible UI. I show it as a graphics bug, so you can see what I'm doing and controlling. So I do an EMG signal to pull myself into it. One of the selections within that invisible UI was mouse control. I just selected it. And then from here...
How are you moving the cursor, basically?
Microgyroscopic movement.
With your head?
Very subtle.
Okay.
It looks like I'm not... It's very subtle.
Okay. But it's basically head movements.
Correct.
Okay.
But that way you beat hemispherical dominance.
Yeah.
You're not having to go subcranially to pick up those imagined movements or intentions.
Yeah.
Because my epiphany was, unless you're locked in, what's the value?
Yeah.
As long as somebody could choose, swallow, breathe on their own, even as a quadriplegic, most of those people have some degree of movement from the neck up.
Yeah.
So why punch a hole in your brain?
Right.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
And gyroscopically, it's universal. Everybody, there's 1,000 people here today.
Yeah.
Everybody's brainwaves are more unique than their fingerprint.
Right.
With extensive AI and machine learning algorithms, I could strap you up with sensors and I'll have you control a computer cursor. But once you take that receiving unit off your head and put it, say, on Lauren's head over there, it won't work at all.
Right.
Not at all.
Right.
Not even close. So this approach is universal. You can take the earbud out, put it in somebody else's ear, and they could just use it. So to answer your question earlier, what's one of the big advancements from last year at this time?
Yeah.
The earbud structurally very similar. The inside with the machine learning and AI, huge improvement on user experience. So if you would have asked me, hey, what's the learning curve of doing this last year? For me, I would probably say, it was 30 minutes. The truth is, it took people roughly an hour to at least be able to use the computer acceptably well, maybe a few days to become more advanced. Now, I think within 15, 20 minutes, you could just use the computer.
So how are you guys using AI for this? Is it trying to predict what the gestures are, or what are you guys trying to do?
Well, it's not only predicting what the gestures are, it's identifying what the gestures aren't.
Okay.
So if you're talking, you're chewing gum, you're eating your lunch, you don't want to be connected to your phone sending all these wild commands.
right. Yeah.
So it's very important that a primer really functions as a true primer. That means to separate intended input from unintended. And that's a very specific line in the sand. So I just set the throttle, by the way, over here, not to kind of switch top.
Yeah, no.
I just set it, and you're going to see I just launched mouse control. From here, I think I'll probably look downwards, get a better view of the flight yoke. From here, I'll grab the flight yoke because I want to pull it up. And then once you see the ground lift away, the gears over here, you'll see me pull the gear up, etc.
That's crazy.
But I'll tell you, I could use... now, the fact I could do this in an advanced simulator like X-Plane 12 technically means you could probably fly a real plane this way. You would never do that.
Yeah.
But there's so many people out there in the world who can't fly a flight simulator.
Right.
Either they're spastic, they have no control over their arms, maybe they don't have the dexterity in their fingers, they just can't control a joystick or a mouse or keyboard well. And I have a good friend, Keith, who can't move at all below his neck. And when I first showed him this, he's like, oh my God, I'm going to fly a plane.
Yeah.
It's a huge deal. Yeah. To many viewers that you might have, they might be like, it's not as magical unless you can't or never have been able to do it. So
aside from people that might have physical limitations, obviously this has applications in any place where you want to be silent, where you don't want to be talking or anything like that. What have you found over the last year has been kind of the, you know, where people really resonate with this kind of technology?
Well, obviously assistive input is central.
Yeah.
To give somebody, I would say, an elegant way of controlling their, not only PCs, Macs, but their whole smart home, and to do it in a fast, accurate way, and to be able to maybe use Microsoft Office applications in a way where they almost have no loss of productivity. And I know that's a crazy comment, but like I've worked full work days, not touching, pardon me, I lose my voice, not touching the computer, and I haven't really personally noticed any loss of productivity.
Yeah.
That's huge. And then when you look at what's out there as far as competitive input technology, you know, people are hitting their head into head arrays where they have a device in their mouth. Always it's a device in someone's
very intrusive,
mouth. Nobody wants tech in their mouth. You know? So, but to do it in a footprint that is the world's #1 wearable, like earbuds, gives people their dignity back. Beyond that, I think esports and gaming is the next beachhead. I would never give up my hand controller, but I've noticed with a hand controller and the earbud together, very powerful.
Interesting.
I think people will accuse users of that of cheating. Because you could shoot.
You basically have a third hand.
It's a third arm.
Yeah.
And you can shoot where you're looking.
Yeah.
Like bam.
Yeah.
Bam. Instead of working analogs, two analogs on multi-axis. You get a reticle. So it's the end of panic firing for older gamers like ourselves, right? And then I think the third beachhead, which is something I work extensively on, silent, invisible human AI interface. The ability to bidirectionally communicate with AI and to do it in a way where the people to the left or right of you have no idea
what you're asking.
Communicating with AI.
No,
That'll
cool.
change the world.
Yeah.
In that, right now, if I want to talk to ChatGPT, to pull up my phone, I could talk to it, but I'm doing it, I'm doing it, and really, for all intents and purposes, I'm nothing but a glorified Googler, right? Now, if we're in a meeting, and I'm sending a query into my AI, you don't know it, is it the AI, or does it look like I'm brilliant? And
well,
that's true augmentation. All of this, all goes down to a silent, invisible, bidirectional human AI interface.
Hey, so one thing you might want to consider is people like Qualcomm. They've got a lot of mixed reality AR glasses. You could integrate this into AR glasses.
I'm a big fan of Qualcomm. I wish I would have founded Qualcomm. I just recently did an integration into a MetaQuest headset. It really allows you to control computers brilliantly with that headset, even if you're laying on your back or face down. So when you wear the headset and the earbud, there's not much you can't do.
So last maybe technical question, the chips that you guys are using, are these designed by you guys, or are you using kind of other microcontrollers, other chips that you've then designed into your system?
It's kind of a hybrid answer to that. But I don't want to get too much into chip architecture, what we're using and how because that gets into more of the secret sauce.
Sure. Okay. Fair enough.
Intellectual property, but the answer is a little bit of both.
Okay. Very cool. Well, hey, it's good to see you again. It's good to see the progress and how easy you've started to make it. Looking forward to hopefully seeing you guys on on a Meta Quest or some XR device.
Oh, I hope so.